What is the timeline for that? Do we know the timeline for that?
Well, within several years, it depends on the schedule announced by the formally announcement from the CNSA. And also, Chang'e 7 mission will have on-site research. We will perform many on-site research in the South Pole region. And for the Chang'e 8, continue the on-site research, and also we will demonstrate many technologies, for instance, such as the on-site resource utilization. If we can find water, maybe we will to do something from the water. So you see, all these Chang'e 6, 7, 8 missions will prepare to establish a robotic research station on the South Pole of the Moon, because South Pole is very important. Since the Clementine mission in the 1990s of last century, it is found that there are water on the lunar surface. So utilizing the water, especially in the South Pole, will be a very hot topic for the human being, for all the space-capable nations.
A new landmark, but never the end, for rather a new beginning for more endeavors in the future. But I think it's fair to say for all of those engineers that have worked tirelessly on this mission at Chang'e 5, they can breathe a sigh of relief after today and maybe get some rest as well. Mr. Xu, your take on where we go from here. What is the next step we all look out for?
Well, I think this is the completion of first three phases, orbiting, landing, and temporary returning. Clearly demonstrated many technologies that we have. The next step would be, I still a personal strong believer in international cooperation. Even this mission, we rely on many international partners. The U.S. initiated the Artemis program, which is also a human mission to the moon with a lunar orbiting space station. This is, of course, a first step. Also, many international partners are participating in this. We have to evaluate on these realistic conditions, and also on the next step, we have to rely not only on technical demonstration technologies and know-hows, but also on the economic growth of our nation and the justification of manned missions. So all of this has to be considered very carefully, technologies, money-wise, human resource-wise, scientific-wise, and
the willingness
of the people and the significance of the scientific return. So all of this has to be considered very carefully.
In the shorter term, when people look forward for more news about those samples that we, paid painstaking efforts really to go all the way to the moon and bring back to Earth, how soon do we think we can hear some news or maybe some results, partial or complete, about those lunar samples? They will take a fairly considerable amount of time to study.
Well, you see that it has been announced by the CNSA that the sample will be divided to several parts. Some of will be exhibited to the public. So maybe we can see that from for instance, maybe some museum or Beijing planetarium, because you see that the kids from the U.S., half of the 1 gram of lunar samples was exhibited in the Beijing planetarium. And also,
but will their looks be very exciting, because they will look just like rock and soils that people normally see?
Actually, I believe Mr. Xu also see the samples exhibited in Washington D.C. Their museum. They have samples from different Apollo missions, and I believe this time we will also have this kind of. So both of us have the chance to see these samples from these exhibitions. And another part will be properly stored. You see that maybe some will be stored in Beijing and some will be announced to stored in Hunan. And also other parts will be studied by the scientists. There are also, as I mentioned, there is a very special laboratory in China Academy of Science. And also maybe there is the CNSA will announce the procedure for the applications. Maybe the universities and other research institutes can deliver applications to CNSA to apply for maybe some small amount of these samples. And moreover, with this kind of research, as we have already discussed, maybe there are also international cooperation. So maybe there are different ways, because
could China be given part of the samples to other countries?
Yes.
Could that happen?
As Mr. Xu has mentioned, maybe some as gifts, and also exchange with U.S. and Russia, and also maybe some joint research with other countries.
Well, I think these samples, once they're back there, have to be studied in many perspectives. Physically, chemically, biologically,
Thoroughly,
isotopically.
in a word.
It's from all different perspectives to understand not only the moon geology but also many other factors, including the in situ resource in the future. So we have to first look at the samples and categorize them into different categories, and even exhibit some of them to the public. I strongly believe that should be done. Like Mr. Yang mentioned, that the Smithsonian Institute has displayed a piece of moon rock on the entrance of that museum that everybody can touch. So I touched that one. I think it's a very exciting moment.
It will generate a lot of enthusiasm and interest in the general public, wouldn't it? Because people keep talking about, why do we do this? Why do we spend all that, all that money, all those resources on something that seems a little far reaching here? It is exactly those exhibits where you come into close proximity to what we have achieved that remind you of the significance of these missions. Gentlemen, we'll continue talking about this in just a moment. But for now, Chinese President Xi Jinping has sent a congratulatory message on the successful return of the Chang'e 5 probe. The State Councilor Wang Yong read Xi's message on his behalf. There, a congratulatory message from the Chinese leader Xi Jinping, signifying just how important this mission has been for China. I want to briefly review with you this historic mission, because as we talked about, so many firsts, so many challenges overcome, and so many moments where we had to hold our breath a little bit, nerve-wracking moments. What was the most impressive for you, Professor?
I've discussed this privately with Mr. Xi. The most impressive part and the most nervous part for me is the lunar orbit rendezvous and docking. You see, this time, as you mentioned, we have many firsts of our country. But the manned lunar rendezvous and docking is the first in the world. So you see,
China didn't have to do that, right? It based its experience. Hold that thought. We'll be coming back to that later in our coverage here. We understand cgtn's reporter Wu Lei is at the Beijing Aerospace Control Center. The ground controllers there have been sent in